Now we get to cross-examination, and
Detective Flores, good morning.
ASAP Rocky's attorney goes in. This man, he's going to be up there for a minute. So if y'all haven't seen this, check it out because it gets interesting.
Before we get into a series of questions I'm going to ask you about regarding how you establish probable cause in this case, I want to really just pick up where you left off with these photographs. You were asked by the prosecutor about 14A, which was the picture that appeared, as the usual word appears, to be holding a gun, where Mr. Mayer appears to be holding a gun. Do you recall that?
Correct.
Okay. Now that gun or whatever it was not recovered, correct?
Correct.
It was not tested, obviously.
It was recovered with tested.
So you're not sure if that's an operable gun or a non-operable gun or whatever it is?
I don't have it tested to tell you.
Right, so you're not sure if it's operable or inoperable or even a weapon, correct?
Without having it, I can't tell you whether it's operable.
Right. Okay, so you were assigned to this case on November 9th, 2021, along with Detective Camacho and Detective Menifee.
That's correct.
And as a detective assigned to this case, you're familiar with all the police reports generated in connection to this case.
Correct.
Okay, and you know, because the police reports are relied on at hearings like this and trials down the road, as a case detective, you want to ensure that those reports are as complete and accurate as possible.
That's correct.
And as a case detective, you spoke to other officers with knowledge about this case as part of your investigation.
Yes.
And you also retrieved and reviewed video recordings pertaining to this incident. Obviously, you just saw them.
That's correct.
Vista Del Mar, 1616 Vista Del Mar, and also 6200 Hollywood Boulevard, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you retrieved those, the Vista Del Mar, I think, on November 9th, 2021, and the Hollywood Boulevard one on November 18th.
Correct.
On November 8th, law enforcement received two 9mm Luger shell casings from Terrell Efron.
Correct.
And at that time, Mr. Efron claimed to Officer Anderson that Mr. Mayer shot 3 or 4 rounds at him.
The object is multiple layers of hearsay, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Okay. Do you know what Mr. Efron claimed initially when he spoke to the police about how many rounds were shot at him?
The object as to lax foundation, and again, calls for multiple.
That's a tough one.
He's the,
Sustained.
okay, he's the detective testifying.
Right, but he's only he can only testify to one layer of hearsay via Prop 115.
Okay. Did you ever speak to Mr. Efron, you, about how many shots he claimed were fired at him?
I did.
And what did he say?
I don't recall exactly, but I believe it was 3 or 4.
3 or 4, okay. And he
Which
also
wasn't
claims that
true.
after this altercation with Mr. Mayers, he, Mr. Efron, returned to the scene about an hour later and picked up 2 shell casings from the sidewalk area.
I believe it was the sidewalk and street area as he described it. Yes.
Right where the incident was, right?
Roughly as he described it.
Okay. And you know that Mr. Efron made this report in person to the LAPD on approximately 7:20 p.m. on November 8th, 2021.
Objection, the same objection calls for multiple levels of hearsay.
It's not on that?
The court's looking at
Yes, sir.
Okay. And on that same day, November 8th, 2021, law enforcement asked if latent print unit could conduct a fingerprint analysis of the casings provided by Mr. Efron.
Objection, lax foundation, calls for speculation.
Sustained. Rephrase your question, please.
Sure. Did you or any of your brother or sister officers in this case request latent prints be done on those shell casings?
Same objection based on the form of the question.
Court's allowing it.
Yeah,
I
that's
did
tough.
not. I'm not sure if we requested prints or the casings just be tested or compared.
Okay. Well, you're familiar with all the reports in this case, right?
Yes.
And you're here testifying at the preliminary hearing on behalf of the LAPD.
Correct.
Okay. Why don't you take a look at, you know what, I'm gonna, Your Honor, just to speed this along. Go ahead, walk next door. Your Honor, with court's permission, I'm gonna just provide the detective with a book of the exhibits I may use during this examination, so he can just have it in front of him, okay?
That's fine.
Okay.
Do you have a copy, Mr. Gonzalez?
These are all their reports.
Hope they fix that mic. That mic is rough.
He actually does have a copy, yeah.
Thank you.
Just go to tab 16. Take a look at that report. First of all, you're familiar with that report?
Yes.
Okay. And does that report indicate that the shell casing was sent off for latent print analysis?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And when they're submitted for such
Good
clear,
question,
when something's
Ashley.
submitted for latent print analysis, detective, that's to determine if there are fingerprints on it, right?
Yes.
And those shell casings were actually submitted to the fingerprint analysis lab about 2 weeks later on November 23rd.
Correct.
Right.
Here we go.
And you're familiar that fingerprints can typically be left behind on bullets when they're touched and loaded into a firearm?
They can be.
But what you object is to lax foundation and calls for an expert testimony.
I don't understand
He's not
what
an
lax
expert.
foundation mean. An expert testimony is a police detective, and he's being asked about whether prints can be left on a bullet case.
Your Honor, I think the objection
That's crazy.
has been simply stated as the grounds for the objection as the court has requested, and I've asked the court to admonish counsel not to yell at me after I make my
Oh,
objection.
Your Honor, I yelled at
man.
him. Let's not be sensitive. Not yelling, I'm just responding to his objection.
Thank you, but there are no speaking objections, and if you should be heard after there's an objection as
He
the
said he's
court
being
sees,
sensitive.
The court's going to allow it. Based on his years of experience as a homicide detective, I think he can opine as to whether or not there are prints may be left behind on shell casings.
He said he yelled at me.
Possibly, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Oh,
In any event, the
man.
latent print unit completed its fingerprint analysis on November 23rd, 2021.
Correct.
Okay, and basically, after examining the casings provided by Mr. Efron, law enforcement lifted 0 fingerprints off of them.
That's correct.
Okay, so there were no fingerprints of anyone on those shell casings.
Nothing usable.
I'd like to ask you about the DNA in this case. You secured a search warrant to obtain DNA swabs from Mr. Mayers.
Correct.
And in order to obtain
That was a great question.
that search warrant, he was sworn to a judge that DNA from Mr. Mayers was, quote, clearly necessary for analysis for probable cause purposes as well as evidentiary purposes.
Correct.
And after getting the search warrant for Mr. Mayer's DNA, you took samples of his saliva with 2 swabs on April 20th, 2022.
Yes, there's one statement.
Okay. And by the way, it's Exhibit 17 if you just want to look along. Okay. And although you affirmed to a judge that DNA was clearly necessary as part of this case, law enforcement never submitted anything for DNA analysis, right?
Correct.
Uh-oh.
Well, why would you swear to a court that it was clearly necessary to have his DNA and then not submit anything for DNA analysis?
Well, we request a reference to have in the event that at some portion of our investigation, that there is a item that's recovered, i.e. the gun, or some other evidence related to the case that we can, at that point, compare to. So it's with the understanding that we have the potential to recover some item of evidence that we would, at some point, request a comparison against.
So it was possible, you mean?
Correct.
Okay, so, I mean, you would agree that's a little different than telling a court that it was absolutely necessary for analysis for probable cause in this case.
Objection argumentative.
What?
Well, it's not relevant.
Okay. Anyway, to be clear, law enforcement submitted nothing for
Argumentative.
DNA analysis in this case.
Nothing at this point.
Okay. Would you say nothing at this time?
Nothing at this point, sir.
You don't plan on doing it anytime soon, do you?
I can't foresee
Objection
the
calls for
future.
discovery.
Sustained.
The alleged altercation between Mr. Efron and Mr. Mayers took place on November 6th, 2021, around 10:17 p.m.
Correct.
And in particular, Mr. Efron claimed he was shot at the corner of Vista Del Mar and Selma.
Yes.
And according to the video footage obtained from 1660 in Vista Del Mar, the physical altercation lasted about 25 seconds.
Roughly, thereabouts.
Okay. And again, section report number, or exhibit number 22, if you need to see it, but in any event, it's roughly 25 seconds, correct?
Yeah, the judge isn't giving them
Roughly from my
anything.
memory.
Okay. And you were here, obviously, on November 8th, when the prosecutor was sort of asking questions of the witness and making statements in court. You were here the last court appearance, correct?
I was in and out of courtroom, but I was here.
Okay. Were you here when the prosecutor stipulated that Mr. Efron returned to the scene of the altercation at 11:09 p.m., 52 minutes after leaving?
Your Honor, if I could just clarify, that stipulation was later withdrawn, sir.
That's not my question. My question was he here when he agreed to the stipulation?
Again, I was in the middle of making my objection when
You
counsel
were.
spoke over me. The stipulation was later withdrawn.
He said he
There was
spoke
no
over
stipulation,
me.
So I object to the form of the question.
Oh,
Lacking
man.
foundation.
This prosecutor is hilarious.
Well, it doesn't lack foundation, but if you withdrew the stipulation, then rephrase your question, please.
Okay.
Maybe the
Yeah.
withdrawn stipulation.
Your Honor, that's another issue. I don't know if a stipulation, once it's acknowledged and entered into evidence, can be withdrawn. I've researched that to the nines. I can't find a thing that allows for a withdrawing of a stipulation that was already been entered into, once it's entered into. But that's fine for now. I could rephrase the question.
Thank you.
Were you here when the prosecutor initially stipulated that Mr. Efron returned to the scene of the altercation at 11:09 p.m., 52 minutes after leaving it, before he subsequently tried to withdraw the stipulation? Were you here when he first stipulated to it?
And I would object that it's irrelevant.
Well, there was a
Terrell.
stipulation, so, and it was withdrawn, so I'm going to allow the question. Were you here when the withdrawal stipulation was initially entered into?
I don't recall hearing that.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, to be clear, according to you, your knowledge and your investigation, your review of the videos in this case, after leaving the scene following the altercation at around 10:17 p.m., Mr. Efron returned to the scene at around 11:09 p.m., correct?
Somewhere thereabouts around that time.
Right. 52 minutes later, more or less.
Yes, sir.
And you got that from watching the videos, right?
Correct.
Okay. The video that was played in court on November 8th, correct?
Yes, sir.
To you, that was Mr. Efron, correct?
It was consistent with what he stated and what he identified, consistent throughout the incident and returning thereafter.
Right. It's consistent that he told law enforcement that he returned to where the shooting occurred approximately an hour later and picked up 2 shell casings.
Correct.
This will be
And
interesting.
according to that video, after returning to the scene, Mr. Efron leaves at about 11 p.m.
Roughly thereabouts. He's there for a couple minutes.
Okay. Now, consistent with all the video footage recovered by law enforcement in this case relating to this incident, that's the only time that Mr. Efron returns to the scene that day.
As far as from the video that I observed and we recovered, yes.
And you observed all the video in this case that was recovered, right?
Correct.
Okay. Before Mr. Efron returned to the scene some 52 minutes later, after the incident, law enforcement had arrived, correct?
Yes.
Okay. In fact, the police arrived at the scene at about 18 minutes after the incident.
Yes, roughly.
Okay. And the police were at the scene for approximately 10 minutes, more or less?
I don't recall the extent of the time they were there for a few minutes.
Okay. So you don't know how long they were actually at the scene for?
I can tell you exactly.
Okay, you watched that body cam footage, right?
Yes, I reviewed
Okay.
it.
And while they were there, the police searched the area of the altercation. You saw that in the body cam footage, right?
Yes.
Okay. And there were at least 7 officers there?
I don't recall how many officers.
Multiple officers?
There were more than 2, yes.
Do we have that body cam footage ready to go? Okay, Your Honor, I'm gonna mark it says
It's still defense exhibit
E. It's still defense exhibit E.
And it's identified, Your Honor, it's identified on exhibit E as shots _fired _NEOC.
Thank you.
Detective, instead of trying to harken back on your recollection, let's just take a quick look at that video, okay?
Okay.
Let's see the body cam.
And specifically,
I find it interesting. He just went back to the scene and found some shell casings. He being Relly.
Just say it for the record.
Your Honor, the time noted on the upper right-hand portion of the screen is 22:40:43.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's only a portion of the body cam footage, as you know. Well, right there, you can see how many officers?
Looks like at least 6.
At least 6.
That's the person who's wearing black.
What's that?
That's the person wearing
Right.
black.
Right, and that would be 7, right?
Correct.
What's the-
What I see in the photo is 6, the 7th would be the person wearing.
We're in the body cam.
Correct.
Okay, so 7 officers, okay.
Sure.
Yeah. We're gonna back up a little bit now. I just want to get the number of officers there, so we have 7. That we see on video.
And the time reflected here, Your Honor, is 22:35:57.
Thank you.
Now, again, this is about 18 minutes after the incident. You have 7 officers on the scene, and what are they doing on the scene?
They're canvassing, looking down towards the ground,
With what?
flashlights.
With flashlights,
Correct.
right? And they're searching for something, right?
Correct.
What do you think they're searching for?
Any evidence?
Okay, let me not, I'll withdraw that. What are they searching for?
And Your Honor, the video would speak for itself as far as how many officers there are at any given moment.
Oh, come
Well,
on.
it does when it's shown.
Right.
I'm sorry, what was your last question? What
Jeez.
is it canvassing for?
What are they searching for?
Objection calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Okay. Anyway, you see, let's do this. Let's be specific. You see the officers walking around the scene where the alleged incident was with flashlights on the ground, correct?
Correct.
Not up in the air, not in houses, on the ground,
Correct.
indicating they're looking for something on the ground.
Yes.
Okay.
And it stopped at 22:36:58.
And with that, Your Honor. Okay, thank you very much for your patience on that. Law enforcement did not locate any casings or signs of a shooting during that search.
That's correct.
Uh-oh.
And despite there being at least 7 officers who responded to the scene, not one officer took any notes or prepared any reports regarding that response.
Objection calls for discovery and relevance.
Relevance?
What's going to allow the detective transfer?
No, there were no reports other than the daily log of the officers related to calls that are generated from the responding to radio calls.
Right, so that's a logbook where they say we're responding to cell note or whatever.
Correct.
Okay. Do you know why no reports were generated? Do you know?
I don't believe they encountered any of the victims or any of the direct witnesses to the crime, so there's nothing to document at the time.
Okay. So after they left, after the police left, Mr. Efron then returns to the scene at 11:09.
Correct.
And as shown on the video, Mr. Efron, without a flashlight and by himself, supposedly located the casings within 2 minutes.
Correct.
According to him.
Within the period of time that he was there. I'm not
Right.
sure exactly 2 minutes or what the time was, but
Short period of time, right?
Correct.
According
Makes
to him.
no sense.
And while there, Mr. Efron claims he videotaped the shell casings.
Objection, it's not a question and
Not a question.
relevance.
Well, I think it was a question. Everything I'm doing is a question. There's a question mark at the end.
There was, I believe there was a video that you showed, wasn't there,
Yes.
of the shell casings in the street?
Yeah, my understanding of what Mr. Tacopino said was Mr. Efron claimed he shot a video at the location. There's no question there. That's a statement by Mr. Tacopino.
Okay, hold on. Mr. Efron claimed to have shot a video at the scene of the shell casings. Correct. What was that question?
Counsel, I'm not going to allow you to engage in that conduct with Mr. Prezonik.
Come on, Joe.
Respectful, Your Honor, from Mr.
Well, I
President.
think
Come
you
on,
need to be
Joe.
respectful both to you and to the court.
Well,
So-
suggest that wasn't a question.
And you just interrupted the court, so
And I
you're clearly
apologize.
not being respectful of the court right now.
You're right,
so
I
go ahead.
apologize.
Yo, Joe is getting pissed, man. He's sick of this guy complaining. Was that a question? Yeah, you can't do that. Come on, Joe. You're better than that.
Respectful, Your Honor, from Mr.
Well, I
President.
think he was being respectful both to you and to the court.
Well,
So,
suggest that wasn't a question.
and you just interrupted the court, so
And I
you're clearly
apologize.
not being respectful of the court right now.
You're
so
right, I
go ahead.
apologize.
Come on,
Ask
Joe.
that you tone yourself down, way down.
Sure, way down.
Thank you. Next question, please.
Well, now that I made that question, could I have an answer?
You can answer.
Thanks.
yes, there was a video that I reviewed.
Again, that Mr. Efron claims he took at the scene of the shell
That was
casings.
crazy.
Okay, thank you.
What's up, Co? Y'all saying Joe is
Law
raging.
enforcement recovered 2 portions of a video from 1616 Vista Del Mar. Right?
Two files,
Yeah,
correct.
right. The first one starts at 22:10 and ends at 22:30 and 01, meaning it starts at like 10:10 p.m. and ends at 10:30.
Correct.
And that's the video portion that captures the altercation itself.
That's correct.
Okay. And the second portion of the video starts at 2300, meaning about 11 p.m., and ends at 23:19:59 seconds, meaning around 11:20.
Yes,
Okay. And that's the portion that captures Mr. Efron returning to the scene.
that's correct.
What law enforcement did not recover and preserve, however, was the video in between those 2 portions, meaning the video from the scene from 1616 Vista Del Mar from 10:30 p.m. to 11 p.m.
Correct.
Okay. And that video would have shown the police responding to the scene, for example.
Yes,
It also would have captured any other person that may have appeared on the scene after the police left,
yes.
before the 11 p.m. video.
Correct.
Okay. And because you don't have that missing video, you don't know if anyone, including Mr. Efron, came back to the scene during that 30-minute window between 10:30 and 11 p.m.
That's correct.
Did
a good
anyone
point.
from law enforcement, to your knowledge, ever watch the video from 1616 Vista Del Mar that would have covered the period from 10:30 to 11 p.m.?
Yes,
So someone watched it?
yes,
Who, you?
yes.
But you didn't recover it?
There was nothing there to recover.
Was any?
There was nothing there that I saw that was captured anything related to the crime.
So you, well,
What? Cat Williams is in here to ask about the McDonald's. Don't do that, Cat. Shout out to Cat Williams, man. Y'all go show her some love. Yo, this is crazy. So he said, I reviewed the video. Okay. Joe says, okay, that's cool. You reviewed the video. What happened with the video? Was it recovered? No. Why didn't you recover it? I didn't think there was anything important there. What? Oh, McDonald's 2.0. Shout out to Cat Williams. Oh my gosh.
at that point, how'd you know if anything was related to the crime?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
I'll withdraw that. I'll re-ask her. Well, what was captured on the video from 10:30 to 11 p.m.?
It's the same thing,
There,
different state.
To the point where Mr. Efron
Wow.
showed up, or we believe that Mr. Efron, where he began the search and he ultimately, consistent with what he said about collecting 2 casings from the street.
So you actually watched the video from 10:30 to 11, but didn't recover it?
Correct.
Okay. And in that video, Detective, were any human beings captured on the video?
I don't recall from that period, that half hour.
Of course
Did
not.
you make a report regarding the observation of that video?
No.
Of course he doesn't recall. Wow. So we're basing the whole fact that nobody planted shell casings there on a police officer's word that he didn't see anything that was relevant in the video. And if we know how these video systems normally work, it's probably lost in the ether somewhere. Maybe not. We'll have to wait and see what happens in this trial. Oh my God. Same thing, just a different
Now,
state.
you said that that video between 10:30 and 11 that you watched but did not recover, correct?
Correct.
Had no relevant evidence to the investigation.
That's
Nothing that I
great.
saw, sir, that was inconsistent with Mr. Efron or anything else that would have affected.
But what? Okay, and I'm sorry, were you finished?
Yes,
I asked you if any human beings or any people on that video, and your answer was what?
I said nothing outside of what we knew as far as what occurred initially, and then ultimately the officers responded, and having the body worn video from the officers to fill in that gap, and then everything subsequent to that.
Bro, this dude is lying. He said, I don't recall. And now he's saying, oh, I said actually that, I didn't see anything that was relevant. So do you not recall? Or you didn't see anything that was relevant? Which one is it, detective? Oh my God.
Mr. Efron returned.
But certainly on that video between 10:30 and 11 p.m. that you viewed but didn't recover, the police responded and were looking for something and found nothing, right?
Correct. And we have that with the,
With the body cam.
correct.
So that's why you didn't recover, because you already had that with the body cam.
Correct, we have a better view of
Fair
what
enough.
stage are.
Fair enough. By the way, on the video that was recovered, camera 3 from 6200 Hollywood Boulevard, it showed someone on a skateboard traveling south on Vista Del Mar, right to left at about 10:17.
Yeah, we saw bro on the
And as shown on the
skateboard.
video, he stops at 10:18 in the same location where the altercation occurred.
I believe he stops closer to the intersection at Selma, which would be just south of that, correct?
Okay. And he bends down in that location and remains there for about 16 seconds, right?
I don't recall that, so I don't have that from memory.
That's okay, we'll play it for you.
Okay.
Wow, wow, wow.
Your Honor, while we're teeing this up, at some point, could I just have a 2-minute break? with the question?
Yes, is this also from defense F?
Your Honor, talking about defense exhibit E, and for the record, it is identified on that thumb drive is the magic video that ends with the digits 3000.
Thank you. So do you wish a moment now or after the viewing of the
Maybe
video?
let's view the video first, and then I'll just need 2 minutes.
That's fine.
Thanks, Your Honor, appreciate it. Okay.
The judge said, don't get an attitude with me. Joe. Shout out to Joe. Joe Tacopina.
Or do you mind if I approach you so I can read the timestamps?
That's
Yeah.
fine.
For the record, it's 22:17:51 right now. And like
Want to go to 22, 36?
22:18:04.
Oh, okay.
And here it comes. Okay, stopping at 22:18:21.
So we'll take a 5-minute break.